Welcome, friends, to the next episode, which is going to be on pacing, what not to do. So, if you have long COVID, you've probably heard at this point about the spoon theory, where you have a certain number of spoons of energy, and maybe before COVID, you had 100 spoons of energy per day, and now you have 12 or something to that effect. So you have to be very careful with how you divvy up the energy that you do have to make sure that the most important things get done, and it helps you kind of decide, okay, what's not going to get done today. So the phrase that is very common for long haulers is stop, rest, pace. I'm going to do another episode about how to prepare for flare-ups, because it's best to do them when you're not having a flare-up. I tell you this from experience. As far as the stop, rest, and pace, the thing that I'm very bad at is the pacing part. I think that a lot of type A people have struggled with long COVID because they are not used to the pacing. So I know that I'm not alone in this. And even if you're not a type A personality type, I think everybody with long COVID, the drastic change in the amount of energy that you have per day is so great that I feel like you could be a couch potato with like the type C or D personality. I don't know if those even exist, but no matter what, you would feel the difference. But I think particularly for active people prior to long COVID, it was and it is particularly difficult. So one thing I have noticed is that around things that are exciting, you end up getting adrenaline and dopamine, and you get energy. And at that point, you can feel pretty normal and as though your energy levels are not depleted. And at that stage, it can be very, very tricky because you're feeling that you're normal, you're back to normal, you're cured, you're having a good day, and you want to make up for all the days that you did nothing or did very little. And this is a trap that I fall into a lot. And so does my sibling, who also has long COVID. Actually, I shouldn't speak for the sibling, but I think that they do. I think that they do as well. But anyway, I was just speaking to my sibling, and they were saying to me, make sure you don't overdo it today, because I was mentioning that I had kind of an urgent situation yesterday, and it made me feel really alive. And I have ADHD, and I used to be an ER nurse and an ER nurse practitioner. So of course, adrenaline gets me really hyped up, and I think it's very common for first responders. So a lot of the first responders with long COVID, I think they struggle because they are very similar in that they use adrenaline to kind of propel them into doing things. And when you have long COVID, that's a trap, because you don't want to spend too much energy, because then you're going to crash way harder when you're not having a good day, when you come down off of the energy for that day, or for whatever reason you had higher energy. Sometimes it's a family event or something that's exciting that you've been looking forward to. Sometimes you can have an increase in energy for that. But I think the thing that is most important to remember is not to get your entire to-do list done the first day you're feeling not horrible. Just don't do it. I've done it. You've done it already, I'm sure, but just try to hold yourself back and kind of from an omnipotent standpoint, just be like, no, it's okay. You don't have to make up for all the things you can't do all these other days just on the one day that you feel okay. Make sure you're still taking your naps, make sure you're still drinking water, taking your vitamins, doing whatever exercise you are able to do, going outside, just socializing however you choose to do so. I think that people with ADHD in general tend to have a hard time with pacing. They get really excited and then they run out of energy. One of the things that I think happens with ADHD is that when you get into that flow state where you are focused on something for hours and hours and hours, and it takes a really long time, it's really hard to get into the flow state with ADHD. So when you get into it, you want to get everything done possible in like one day or 6 hours or something like that. But the problem is with long COVID, your body doesn't give you feedback in real time. So when you are at the gym, for instance, and you're feeling great, or one time I was ice skating with my kid and I thought I was fine. I felt fine. And the next day, by the evening, I could barely get out of bed. It was a drastic change within 24 hours, but it would have been really nice to have that feedback from my body while I was actually ice skating, because I felt fine. I felt completely fine. I was thinking like, oh great, I am recovering from long COVID. And I am, but it's not always as fast as I like to think it is. So I guess the main purpose of this whole snippet of talking about pacing is to do way less than you think you should be doing, especially if you are the overachiever type. And I do think that there is a correlation between overachievers and perhaps even people with ADHD, because they have a hard time pacing. So their recovery from COVID and long COVID may be more complicated than others. Of course, other people may have complicated courses of recovery as well, and not to discount anyone else's experience, but this is what I know, and so that's what I'm talking about. But anyway, I think the biggest thing to remember is just to rest more than you ever thought you would ever need to rest. One of my siblings sent me a meme, and I cannot remember exactly how it went, but it was something like, as an experiment, just rest. Rest so much that everyone thinks you're lazy. Then rest some more. Then rest, And I laughed so much when I saw it. It was very cute, but I'll try to find the meme and maybe take a snapshot or something and make it the whatever album or episode picture or something like that. But just suffice to say, I suck at pacing. If you do too, you're in good company, and just do the best you can to pace yourself right now, today, tomorrow. Let go of the stuff that you didn't do quite right before, and, just go and take a nap and pace yourself. And then if you feel like if you're starting to get into the groove and you're like, oh, I could do this for 6 hours, don't do that. Just do it for 30 minutes and then rest. Okay, that's all for now. I hope you have a great day. We'll talk soon.